Hello everyone, I'm Professor Mehta. I'm welcoming you to the session of SolidWorks from LJIET Institute of Technology and Engineering. In this particular session, we're going to discuss about another three-dimensional feature called Revolve or Revolve Base. For that, we will going to have this particular diagram or this particular component to enable our feature called Revolve. Clear? This Revolve feature in previous session we have discussed about this particular Revolve feature, which will having quarter section of any of the component, and then we can revolve that quarter section for 360-degree about a center line or an axis line to have that revolving part. The condition to have that revolve part, the first condition is that the component or sketch should be symmetrical around that revolving axis. So here you can see a component which is which has to be revolved about by us. It is symmetric about the central line, or you can say horizontal line of our component. So my idea to design this particular component is to have this section or a quarter section or this particular section at one side and to revolve it around this particular axis. I hope you got this point. You can also design this component by extrude also, but the revolve will provide you easy operation and optimized operation or a minimum step to operate this particular section. Now what I will going to do is I will going to draw a half section which is provided in this particular sketch. So let's start with this. Here you can see a half section for we have three rods or three circular parts passing through each other. One is which is having a 20 mm diameter and a length of 300 mm. Second one is 60 mm diameter and the length of 40 plus this particular thing is 60 and this 40. So ultimately it will be 80 plus 60, which is 140. And the last one, this which is having 100 mm diameter for the length of 60 mm. So what I will going to do, I will going to design a rectangle of this 10 mm thickness from one side and height or length of 300 mm. Then I will have another rectangle from the center which is having this amount of section and ultimately this. Clear? So let's start with this. So as I have told you, first of all you should select a plane, then you have to select a sketch. After selecting the plane and sketch, I will go for a corner to corner rectangle. Clear? After selecting this to corner rectangle, I will draw a particular rectangle. Now as we have seen that our dimension for that particular rectangle should be like this. It is 10 and 300. So the height should be 10 and the length should be 300. Clear? So let's have this 300 length for this particular component. Now here we can see that this has created asymmetricity around my origin. So to remove this around the asymmetricity on origin, you have to have or provide some constraint on one dimension to one direction to another. To have that, we have to make sure that our component should be always in symmetric about our origin. To have this, I will have the condition or you can say constraint that the length between this axis and the edge of that component should be 150 mm. So it will be exactly at the center of my origin. So it will be 150 at my center. So ultimately it will going to have this kind of a length, means 150 at one side and 150 at another. Once again you can see the total length is 300, which is having 150 one side and 150 at another. Now let's have another rectangle which is also a diagonal rectangle of a 2 point, but let's have its dimension. You can draw it from this particular point also, or you can draw it from this particular. I will draw for this particular point. So afterward I will delete the intersecting part with my trim point. Clear? I hope you got this point once again. So let's have this second section. So its length, as we have discussed, length is 140 and the height will be provided by its diameter. So diameter is 100 mm. So half diameter is its radius, and which is 50 mm. So we will provide it with the 50 mm. So let's draw this diagonal section. So I will start it from this base, which is having this type of a section here. I will go out of command. Now I will provide smart dimension. It is having a dimension of 124. We want to have 140 dimension, and also it should have length from the center axis should be 70 so we can have that uh, half of the distance at the both the side. At the same time, the height of this particular thing should be 50 as we have discussed in our sketch. So it should be 50 Here you can see that particular sketch. It is having a length from this point. It is 50 which is half of, sorry, 30 sorry, I have interpreted at 100 but it is 30 So we'll convert in diameter is 60. So the radius will be 30 So let's convert that into 30 of diameter. Clear? Sorry, height. Now let's delete the quantity which is intersecting or overlaying over each other. This is the quantities which we will going to delete in this particular diagram. I hope you got this point. There are also quantities here and there also, so it will going to provide a problem when we are designing our particular component. Here you can see this is a cutted line which only having this kind of length. Clear? You can also trim that, remove that overlaying constraint on your points, so you can have our component, or you can have our component which is open at this particular point. At the end of revolve we will going to close it, but right now we will having open side because we will going to overlap different kind of section over this particular entity only. That's why. Now let's have one rectangle over here which is having a height of 50 because it is our diameter 100 and length of 60 So let's do this once again. Selecting a rectangle from this point, I am going to have this type of a sectional view which is having a height of 50 Clear? Here we can provide in 50 height, as well as the length should be 60 So the length of this particular entity is 60 and from the one side it should be, the length from the one side should be 30 Clear? Once again, length, I'm taking a smart dimensional length from this point to, let's have zoom in this line. It should be 30 Clear? So it is 30 so symmetric from our center point. You can see the symmetricity, then provide get out of that particular, and then we'll delete the extra quantity which we are having in this particular diagram. Yeah, I hope you got this point. To enable our revolve option, we have to join or close this entity. Don't ever forget to close the entity. So you can enable our option which is called revolve. Now, after drawing this quarter section of our sketch, we can provide that particular revolving option to our component. I hope you got this point very well. Till this point, this is just a sketch or quarter sketch of our component. Now let's have feature which is called revolve. Now when you are having or when you are providing revolve to this component, it will ask you to provide axis of revolution. So I will select this particular line as an axis of revolution. You can see the preview of this particular component which we are going to design. Now we can also have multiple options up to vertex, up to the midpoint, up to the surface, up to the point, as well as you can have different types of degree. If I want to have 270 degree of rotation, then it only will going to have 270 degree of rotation, as well as here in this case we will provide 360 degree. At the same time, there are multiple options also, like if I want to provide a direction, if it is having particular direction, clear, second direction means one sided and another side like two direction, then you can also provide that particular thing in direction, as well as you can have thinning of this feature also. Like if I want to provide a thin cross sectional from inside it or hollow section from inside it, I can also provide thin feature to my particular component. Clear? So this was our revolve section. After providing this revolve, you can see our component which is exactly in the position which we have seen in that our drawing. Clear? So here you can see the component which is having exact dimension which we have provided in this particular exercise. By revolving this component we have created, or by revolving that particular cross sectional area, we have created this kind of component. I hope you got this each and every point inside this. Now let's have a revolve around this particular entity, or cut the particular revolve cut. Let's have provide that revolve cut to this particular entity. For that, I will select a particular plane, or you can say this front plane. To have that, I will provide a slot inside this outer diameter here, to show this how this revolve entity or revolve cut will work. So I will select a front plane, and then I will go for a sketch. Sorry, once again, to coming out of this sketch, I will select a front plane and sketch. To get into this front plane, I will have going to have this particular dimension, so it will show in me a front plane. Now I will draw a rectangle which is having this kind of, I will going to draw a rectangle which is having this kind of a profile. Clear? Which is having this kind of a profile. So if I want to have this particular type of cut, I will having it from this geometry. To draw the axis, I will have that center line to provide reference to this entity. Clear? So I will going to have this particular rectangle as well as center line axis. So provide this feature, I will have revolve cut. Then I will go for this entity. Clear? Which is having a line as a reference, which is my line 5, which will going to have 360-degree of rotation, and then I will provide that rotation or cut through this section. You can see you can easily provide this kind of cut to any of the component by having this revolve cut. I hope you got each and every point regarding to this particular section also. So in this section we have learned about revolve as well as revolve cut, to provide a particular section which is having the symmetry around a particular axis. I hope you got each and every point regarding this two command. If you are having any kind of problems regarding to this particular thing, you can directly contact me or ask me. Thank you. Thank you so much. We are ending here. Thank you.